Now we have come to MCQ students. Now whatever we have discussed about the entire taxonomic hierarchy, or we have seen the entire chapter or the summary of this entire chapter will be given into questions. Now we have to understand the questions and then answer them accordingly. The first question what we're dealing is, the statement says nothing lives forever yet life continues. Now we have to understand this statement and we have to say what is the role, which role illustrates it. The sentence is illustrated by which particular role? Is it embryogenesis, or is it morphogenesis, or is it replication or reproduction? Why is, now we understand there are four options. We know that the answer is the reproduction. Why not the other three? That also matters a lot. Why are not the other three? This also will give you a better understanding. Embryogenesis is when we are speaking about embryos as a special. Embryos cannot be produced if the individuals are not there in the first place, students. What is morphogenesis? Anything which has to deal with morphology. As we age, will that your face look the same? Now I'm looking something similar to this. Will I look the same after 20 years? No. That is why nothing is forever, but life continue. Will I continue if there is only me as an individual? No. If I replicate and if there is one more individual to replicate or help me out, will this also work? No. This might help in certain ways for a certain replication, but when we are speaking about this particular sentence, nothing lives forever, yet life continues, who is helping them to continue the life? Of course, it's reproduction, students. So what is the reproduction? Reproduction is the formation of new individuals of similar kind. Of course, after reproduction, if it is between two correct species, you get a similar kind, similar looking offsprings. Yes, it is not essential for the survival of individuals, but it is required for the spread perpetuation of your population. Now, what is this? Now, that is what I was speaking when I was discussing you all about regarding the summary of the chapter. The reproduction cannot be considered as a defining property, like main property of living organisms. One individual is there. Let's take an example, okay, for a better understanding. One particular individual is that particular individual has never undergone any reproduction, or it has never produced, that individual has never produced offsprings. Okay, will that individual as a solo being will die just because he is not reproducing or producing offsprings? No, that individual will grow, of course, in height, size, age over the years, work, schedule, whatever the life continues, and will turn 25, 35, 45, 55, 65, and one day 75, 85, that person will die. Will his life stop just because he has not done reproduction? No, his life has not stopped. His life is going as usual, right? His life is going. His life is going, but it is of course required for population. If there is no reproduction, 2 to 4, 4 to 6, 8, it will not happen, right? If this has to happen, what has to be there? Reproduction has to be there. If the population has to increase, reproduction is the only way it can happen. But one individual is a living individual. That individual who did not reproduce is still a living individual. Just because he did not reproduce is not considered as a non-living organism. He is still a living organism, students. But it is not essential for the survival of an individual, as I said, not essential for their survival. He will still age, he will still do his routine and still die. But that is only required for the population, student. That is why it is very, very important. Next one. Which of the following organism does not reproduce? Now we should know which organism reproduces, which organism doesn't reproduce. First of all, we should know what is a mule, what is a worker bee, what is infertile human beings. Okay. Of course, when the term itself is given as infertile human being, human female. Female, of course, has the capacity to reproduce, of course, to upbring the population, to give birth to an offspring. But certain cases will be there where females will have some genetic disorders, or might be some because of circumstances. The female usually might turn, not usually, but certain cases she can turn infertile. In that case, of course, the individual does not reproduce. What about a mule and a worker bee? You should know what is a mule and what is a worker bee. Now, this is an example, students, what I have given here. What is a mule? Mule is this organism that we can see here is usually a cross. Now, cross between a female horse and a male donkey. Now, this is a thing what I was saying about species. The species, if they are not similar, or if they are breeding up above the levels, the produced offspring is always infertile, students. That is why when a mule is an organism which is like a child now, it is a produced offspring. That mule is produced from how two people? It is produced from a female horse and a male donkey. It is produced for these two because of course horse is a different organism and donkey is a different organism, but both belong to kingdom Animalia, right? Just because they belong to one category on the upper scale doesn't mean horse and donkey is a similar organism. So of course when the product is produced, a mule, that offspring is produced, the offspring is always infertile. This is mule. There's something called as hemi as well. Now what is that? It is a cross between reverse. Now whatever this mule part was there, female horse and a male donkey, it's got reverse. Male horse and a female. Of course, heni is also a infertile organism. Now if you have to produce one more mule, if you have to produce one more heni, what we're supposed to do? We are supposed to again crossbreed it. Now for example, we have crossbred, we have produced one particular mule. And we have crossbreeded it, we have produced one particular mule. That mule, whatever certain amount of life span it has, it stays and it dies. It will die because it is infertile. Now again, if you want to produce one more mule, again crossbreed has to be done. One more mule can't interbreed and produce the third mule there. Those doesn't work as usual. Okay, it doesn't at all work because it is a cross between two different hierarchies here. That is why a mule and a heni is an infertile organism. Okay. Now there is one more thing. There is something called as worker bee, students. Now what is worker bee? As you can see, worker bees is a part of a caste of honeybee. You can see here there are 3 honeybees. Okay, they have caste. There is caste system or colony organization, they say. Now in this colony organization, we can see we have worker, we have queen, and we have drone. Queen is of course a fertile person. Is a female. She's a fertile. Drone is a male and also a fertile person. But when it comes to this worker, we are speaking about this worker is also a female, but students, she is infertile. She cannot produce offsprings. That is why, which of the following organism does not reproduce? Mule, of course, you know it does not reproduce. It is infertile itself. Worker bee is also infertile, regardless of females, is infertile. Infertile human being, of course. When all these 3 cannot reproduce, the answer is all of these. That is why a mule is whatever is sexually sterile, unable to reproduce, whatever at the same time. That every time you have to produce a new one every single time. One more mule cannot reproduce. As we are speaking about honeybees, of course they are colonial, social, polymorphic. What is polymorphic? Poly means many, morphic means morphology. When one type of individual has many morphology, regardless of being one particular category, they are called as polymorphic. Morphic means morphology, poly means many. Many type of morphology, regardless of one particular organism, is called polymorphic in sense. There are of course 3 individuals, colony of honeybees, what I was speaking about, the same thing. Queen is fertile, drone is fertile, again male, but worker ones are fertile ones, but they perform all the duties. They take care of A to Z, looking after the children, looking after the hive, looking after the comb, cleaning the hive, fanning the hive, bringing all that pollen, bringing the nectar, making the honey. Everything is done by these worker bees, but still poor people are infertile. Okay, let's proceed further.